So we're podcasting today, and I am actually, for the first time on our actual podcast, I am joined by Beth, our success coach, obviously my partner. And the whole purpose of this podcast today is there's so many people in our team, in the game plan. They know so much about both of ourselves. And I think sometimes what we struggle to do is just give an insight into who we are, not only as people, as a partnership, but also people individually. And I think I've spoken so openly about kind of my story and my tips and my guidance and kind of my background, but something that people don't really see an awful lot is actually Beth's story. So I think we kind of wanted to do a bit of a reset podcast and introduce ourselves. We're so clear on what we do as a business. We're an online coaching company that takes people that have gone through the perpetuous cycle of fat loss and failure, where they just get sick to death of the industry because actually they're not being supported. So we take those people and we give them the success, we give them astounding fat loss results, and actually we then give them the ability and the confidence to take on any challenge, whether that be physical or mental. And I think we're so clear and we're so evident with what we do, but actually who we are is often so overlooked for many, and I think that's a real big thing. So I will introduce Beth, and I'll just get her to give us a little summary about kind of her background and kind of how she got into the business as such.
Okay, hello. It's nice to actually join a podcast, not my natural setting. Where do I start? I think from a young age, I don't like to say the opposite to Travis, but I think as soon as I was quite young, was interested in sports, exercise, health and fitness. I wouldn't say from a negative standpoint. I think the 90s, just trying to show my age now, kind of gets a bad rap for kind of overhyped and progressive diets, but I fell into playing sports and having an active lifestyle quite young. So I think throughout all of my school life, going into my late teens, going to university, studying having a sports degree, that was all kind of done and dandy up to that point. It wasn't until I started having some medical issues with my hips and my performance. I played netball, I think, from the age of probably just end of primary school, starting in secondary school, and it kind of hit off. Always had pains, but just kind of thought I was overdoing it. And then it got to the point where I was at university playing for a netball team, and I was just really struggling with pain and keeping up. And for years, I think I got told that I was just doing too much, even though deep down I knew that there's a level of fitness that you can achieve, and I definitely wasn't at that. I think I was just declining. So my story kind of went the other way, whereas Travis kind of grew into it. I kind of started to decline, and that really, really affected me, especially when I went to uni. I was known as the girl that was kind of captain of certain teams, always playing in every game, playing for different year groups, barely in school because I'm being pulled from, I was the prime person to join a sports team, to then declining and my body starting to fail. And it wasn't for probably 3 or 4 years, going backwards and forwards for hospital visits just to try and work out what it is, until I was finally diagnosed. It wasn't growing pains, as I was told by quite a few doctors at the age of 24, you've got growing pains. I actually have hip dysplasia. So it's where the femoral head of your pelvis isn't quite developed. So there is a little bit of either undershadowing or overshadowing, depending on which one you have. And so I got told I needed quite a serious operation. Obviously, I cacked my pants. But for me, it was anything to get back to where I was. I then had the operation 3 years ago now. And it was quite a journey, but I think it's only until this year that I'm kind of finally back to a certain level of fitness. And I think that's where my passion comes from. I've always wanted to help others to be as active as possible and to enjoy the things that I enjoy, and to share that with people. And I've always been quite passionate of that. That was not a summary, but I feel like I needed to give a little bit of insight.
And that is Beth's thesis. For contrast, because there may be new listeners, Beth was the sporty kid. And I was absolutely not. I was the fat kid. I was the last pick. I was the kid that I was the kid that once had to ride his bike home instead of playing football with his mates because the fence was closed and I couldn't climb it, but they all did. So I was that guy. I mean, I was still okay at sport and I still had that background, but like I say, on the contrast to Beth, like for me, it was in those times she would have been thriving and I was suffering. You know, I was bet money to lose weight. I was taken to Weight Watchers. I, you know, was literally told that I had to eat certain things and I couldn't eat this and that was bad for me, and we'd go through these fads, and that just comes from my background. My mum was overweight, I have to be honest. My grandparents were overweight, and it's not a slight at them. They just didn't understand health. No one above me except for my half brother played sport, and he was too distant in terms of relationship at the time to really get a good influence on me, and we really didn't have that understanding as a family. And I think when you take that person that, you know, was so sporty and then suffered, and then the person that suffered and has become that person that overcome those things, I think that's why we really kind of bounce off each other as well as argue all the time, because
we've got different standpoints.
Yeah, like, you know, like I can take someone that's overweight and I can say to them, look, we can do this. And also I can understand how you can get to high performance, but Beth also has lived that high performance life and gone backwards, which is also other people in our journey. You know, we've got a guy that, you know, had trials for touch rugby for England, had a knee op, was never going to run. He'll run his first marathon this year. So we have that background. But how did you then get from, you know, you're an elite person at sport at that age group, playing for county, you're going to be the next big thing, to effectively someone that's not very good at sport anymore because they can't move, and now only at 30 years old, she can now start doing things but still suffer. Like, how do you kind of get through that? Because, I mean, we talk about plateaus, right? But that's the biggest plateau there possibly is.
Yeah. I think it's that drive. I always know that I am much better when I'm active. It's so much better for my mind. Everyone always says that cliche, you know, move your body and it'll help your mind. And I'm very much an advocate for that. And I think so many people use injury or illness as an excuse, but we also know that by moving and by keeping our bodies fit and healthy, again, I'm not just saying this because I'm sat in this chair, but I generally do believe it. And I think that that's what was pushing me to succeed. And I think I did get told so many times, you can't do this. You know, you're never going to be able to run, or you shouldn't run, you shouldn't do this. And I just thought, shouldn't I, or should I try? And I think it did take me 3 years. I think it was walking through, I remember being on crutches. So I had to be on crutches for, I think it was like 12 to 18 weeks. Not like non-weight bearing at first, and then partially adding in own body weight, and that was tough. I mean, being told, you know, try and see if you can not put any weight through your foot or your leg, and pretend you've got an egg that you don't want to crack. Now, that is really hard concept to try and master. But straight away, I kind of threw myself into it. There wasn't a lot of physio help.
There's people stood there now thinking,
test that egg. How do you test an egg? Try and test it. And I really want to see what the pressure is, because it's not a lot. But yeah, I think there was a real, I mean, I hate talking about COVID, but it was rife right in the middle. And so I kind of thought, well, if I know, because of my background, that if I just sit here, I'm just going to rot physically, mentally. I know that my muscles are going to become even more weak after the operation. So I needed to move. So it took probably about 12 weeks to feel confident with trying to walk again. You know, shout out to the girls that walked me through farmers' fields in my wellies with crutches, trying to help me climb over fences and styes just to get into the next field, and then getting stuck, and then realising that my wellie is vacuumed into the thick mud, but I still can't put pressure on my leg. But I think it was that drive to try and prove people wrong, but also to try and give that back to myself. Like, I thought there's nothing that's really going to take that away from me. And it's who I am, and I think it's been ingrained in me for quite a while, the competitive nature. But I kind of flipped that, which was, I have to say, a really hard feat. I'm so used to a competitive environment against others and being a team, but I decided to channel that competitive nature into myself. So if I tried to compare myself to others, I would crumble. I'd have massive bouts of jealousy, envy, about people running, people doing what I used to do. So I had to have that mentality of, it's me versus me. And I think that helped massively. I think that's one of the main things that kept me going. So any little goal, I would try and smash through it. I would give myself little PBs. I would then add to it every single day, especially when it's like you're trying to walk again. I've done 10 steps today, like a baby. I've done 12. I've now walked to the lamppost. I've now walked to, the next lamppost. I've walked to the post box. I've walked to the shop. I've managed to carry 2 bags in my hand. It's starting from scratch. And then I think you have a real kind of understanding of, and a reevaluation, I suppose, of just the little things in life. And that sounds really kind of, again, corny and cliche, but I think it's that, you were able to reflect and see what's important, but then also, when my competition was me, I was not stopping. And I think that's what's kind of fueled it. Yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of people listening to that won't even slightly relate because a lot of people have never been at that point. But that competition of UVU is so important, especially in like fat loss, transformations, marathons. Like there's a lot of people that will not physically have suffered that level of setback or physically suffered that kind of level of suffering, I suppose. It's not, I can't think of the right word, but it's I think for me, what is really interesting is that you can still achieve those things that you want to. And I always, like I say, always talk about plateaus, and I just use that as an example. But it's actually breaking that down. And I think sometimes so many people just hit that little bit of suffering, and it would have been really easy for you to go, I just can't run anymore. And actually it's taken you 3 years,
to run.
but actually your mindset still struggles with that.
Oh, 100%.
You're still a fraud.
Yeah.
You still don't think you can run. You still talk yourself out of things. And I think sometimes sometimes it's okay to be a fraud, by the way. Like, I will talk more about it in the future, but like I said to Beth, and it's literally booked in, I'm going to attempt to break a world record this year. What? That's the big reveal. I'm not going to tell you what, so it's not really a big reveal. But actually, I'm a massive fraud because I'm not very good at that activity that I should be doing. So sometimes actually being the fraud and committing to that thing that you say you want to do, that you don't believe you can do, is actually the thing that the behaviour is going to be good. Your behaviours that you have to do to lead you to that moment are going to help you achieve the thing. And even if you don't achieve the thing, the behaviours have got you a lot closer to achieving it.
Yeah.
And I think that's super key in terms of like your journeys for listeners now and stuff that are like, don't really relate. Actually, you do relate because you're in that perpetual cycle of struggling with fat loss and failing, of trying to hit certain goals in the gym and failing. Because ultimately, the chances are you wouldn't be listening to it if you're not. I know I say it all the time, like our guys fail the most because they're pressuring themselves, they're pushing themselves. But every time they fail, they learn and they succeed, and they fail and they learn and they succeed. And I think that's a really cool point. But I mean, it's not a tangent, but we are going to go off on a little one now. Like, kind of, how did you then get into this point where now you're like, I'm going to help people, because you're not helping people do what you did. And you'll probably likely never help people that you did unless you take
specifically
the business
with
right? So how do you then become a PT? What's your point? What's your purpose? And actually, where is your journey here going for 2024? Because we're going to do that for the business as well.
Okay. I mean, anyone that knows me knows that I went into teaching, and I think for a while and Travis will always tell me off. I think for a while I was telling myself, I don't like teaching. But I do. I love teaching. I'm confident with teaching. I love sharing ideas, love, making people see their worth, giving them the knowledge to succeed. I think that's where the foundations of where my teaching came from. So I think when I went into teaching, I thought, well, I've got all this knowledge about sport and my background, and I can give it to children. And I think that will never go, but I now have this kind of journey that I'm on where I'll help anyone. I think that's something I've really started to think about over the last couple of years, since working with Travis as well. And I think it's about sharing that message. And Travis says it quite a few times about, if I can help one person, then that's one person better or off. And I think when you start seeing it on the grand scale, and it just starts from having conversations with your friends in the gym, and then it starts going into a stranger speaks to you in the gym, and you start offering advice, and they take it and they come to you the next time and they're like, oh, Beth, that really worked. It's about then starting to give you the confidence to believe in yourself and think to make a difference. So I trained when I was probably just before uni, when I didn't really know what I was doing. Everyone, you are into sports, so go be a PT. And it wasn't really a thing all those years ago, I will say it.
It was a thing. They just weren't very good at it.
No. And I think the idea of being a PT was just in a gym, counting reps under some big branded company. So it wasn't really appealing. So it wasn't until I kind of had my operation, had that, little epiphany of what am I actually doing with my life? How can I then change how I am? How can I make myself feel better? So I suppose it was a little bit of a selfish journey at first. Like, I want to help others because I really get a buzz from it. But then it's actually turned into something that I just thoroughly love and can see a big kind of, what's the word? I don't know, an avenue, I suppose, for myself. And then I decided to, I say retrain, get the up-to-date knowledge, because mine was a little bit prehistoric by that point. And I think as soon as I started doing it, everything come flooding back. And I think then that passion for all the little things that I thought I forgot, I then could remember. And then I just kind of started picking up things here and there. And I think the main goal is to try and make this a reality. And Travis will tell you, me making any sort of decision or commitment to certain things without overthinking everything is quite difficult.
Could
comes
be
from
your
dinner.
First live podcast argument. The most risk-adverse person I've ever met, and I am not. But it's about that reality, and like you say, bringing Beth into the business looks often, I think, on the outside like a cop out because it's an easy in.
It's hard.
But for me, it would have been an easy in to bring Beth in. But it's not about that partnership. Actually, the experience, the plateau we just spoke about, the elite mentality prior. And I don't think it's unfair to say it's not necessarily an elite mentality now, but it's a realistic mentality.
Yeah.
And I am ever the optimist, and I will just sign up for something and say, I can do that, it'll be fine. So actually having that balance in act is so key. And I think that's why in 2024 for us, it's going to be, it'll be the biggest year in the GamePlan's history. I mean, it's quite an infancy anyway, but we will hit 100 clients over this course of this year. We will take 30 people through a photo shoot. We will have 10 people plus do a high rocks. We'll have 5 people run a marathon. That's what the game plan is. That's what we deliver. And actually, you're now talking to the people that have experienced it between us, like county level sports, high rocks, photo shoots, getting into insane shapes. There's nothing here where people are not practicing what they preach. And that's why, this will be such a great year, and it will become a reality. But that's why I found it so important today that I thought people understood, kind of what was on the other side of it, because whether you've been amazing and then you go to shit and then you get amazing, or whether you started off just, in a really bad place and gone on to achieve the things that we have as a couple, as a business, as individuals, I hope it and Beth touched it there about the inspiring one person. That's not really my aim. My impact is to inspire thousands of people. What I do know is if I can impact one person, inspire one person, they might impact and inspire one. Yeah. And that's the knock-on effect. And that's what we aim to achieve in the game plan. And if you go into our success stories, so many people will talk about their family, how they help their partner, how their kids now take part in sport, how they're obsessed with the gym. But that doesn't only impact that one person, because if we inspire a child, then we inspire the future generations of that child's family too. And that's something so passionate about someone that was so good at sport to someone that felt like they just didn't belong in this world when they were so young. And I certainly won't say there was any thoughts of not being in this world, but really I didn't belong. And I think that's it's major, and that's why it's why we're the best team out there, and I think clients will testify that always.
Yeah, I think it's the two extremes. We're both kind of had both extremes and then met in the middle, but it's definitely something that, I mean, I think ever moving forward, it's something where we always want to grow. We always want to be the best. We're always learning. I don't think I've met anyone that can still get his laptop out at 12:30 after we're coming back from a holiday and think, oh, I'm going to do this now for business. It's one of them things that, you know, we're both quite driven people anyway, but then, you know, as a duo, it's one of them things where we bounce off each other, we keep elevating each other's ideas. You know, I think the amount of times when Travis comes home or we're on a long journey and all of a sudden we're talking for like hours about the next steps, and I think that's really important, not always to benefit just us, and I think that's really, really key. It's not always about this is going to make us look amazing. Obviously quite a lot of the things do, but it's not about that, and I think fundamentally it's about how we can make everyone else amazing around us and make you feel the best version of yourselves, because that's kind of our little kind of memo. It's that thing of how can we elevate everyone around us to feel how we felt at one stage in our lives, where you just feel like confidence is just next level. Yeah,
definitely. And I think actually that I hope that shines through, because we, like Beth said there, when we talk about things all the time, like, and I'll be on the phone for 3 hours. Drove back from Glasgow after a mentor event, and I think we was on the phone for literally 3.5 hours, and the only reason I stopped is because I needed to stop for a wee. Standard, similar to now. But actually the customer delivery is such a thing. What's next? What's the next step? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And you just enrich the customer, enrich the journey. And actually, I think we're quite evident with that as well. Like when someone signs up, they get an entire roadmap for at least 3 months, telling them exactly what the steps are. The clarity and the level that actually, like you say, in a way, we are all about lifting others up, which is a cliche, but actually just helping them achieve their goals and giving them the confidence to take on a challenge. That lifts us up, not only because it helps fill our confidence, because it gives us that belief that actually but it backs up that we do what we say we do. But actually others then lift us up as well. And the more that we grow, then everyone else can grow with us, because in a world, you know, we've got a lot of things in the pipeline. Like 2025's already got a key goal in there, which we won't share. Not today anyway. And some people know what it is because we tell those key people. But actually that is what we do. And we are probably the fastest growing online coaching company. Certainly within Cambridgeshire, there's not anyone on the level, and that's not an egotistical standpoint. It's a factual standpoint. And actually the beauty of that is the more people we get in, the more we grow, and not because we get split too thinly and we'll try and save loads of money. Actually, people will come into the business to help every single person. We have caps so that we can meet that next level, but 2024, you know, we all hit 100 clients, but no one will experience a drop in quality, because the first step is Beth will come full time. The next step is we'll hire another full-time coach. Then again, because actually we realize that every time we inspire one, we inspire two. Every time we can inspire two, we can inspire four, and then so on, and that doubles. And, you know, it won't be long before you walk around Cambridgeshire at least and you're seeing GamePlan logos. And that's the idea, and that's the goal. So I think in terms of, I mean, is there anything you would add to that?
I think in terms of the game plan, I think if you don't know, you will eventually. And I'll say this, if we're not annoying you by the end of 2024 with the amount of times you're seeing us, then we've failed. And I think that's key, because I think gone are the days of those really, you know, as you said right at the beginning, or throughout all of our videos that we record, it's like gone are the days of the quick fads, and it's all about those lifestyle changes. And I think that's definitely what we thrive on. And when you see someone go through that journey, we get so much back from them, which, you know, it isn't just a financial profit, it is having that sense of pride. And there is so many videos of me at the recent Hyrox event where I'm literally screaming until I lose my voice, because the amount of pride I have watching our clients achieve things that they never thought they could achieve, and likewise watching it unfold in front of your eyes, is probably the most rewarding part of this job. I think when you are involved in that, it's addictive. And I think, again, if you don't know about what we do, then get involved. And I think if you're interested, it's one of them things, and if not, you're really missing out.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, if you're not one of us, we're probably annoying you. I love that.
Same.
Because eventually you'll join us, or you're not one of us, and of course in this world that's so fine too. So I think it's a really important part as we wrap up this podcast that we say, if you are stuck in that perpetuous fat loss cycle of failure, and you do want to finally get results that amaze you, but also you want the confidence to take on any challenge or physical or mental, all you have to do is head to the Instagram link in my bio, click the link, drop your application. Like I say, there's capped applicants at the moment. We're getting 5 to 10 per week, but you're like, you listening to this or watching this and you're thinking, yeah, I really need to get involved. I'm sick of being in that cycle. And these guys, you know what we're like. You've got a bit of our personality. You see it on the socials. Just hit the link. We'll have a chat. It's not for you. It's not for you. If it's for you, then in 6 months' time, you'll be a progression pro. 12 months' time, you'll be an ultimate game changer. You'll have achieved things that you never thought you could in just 12 months that will enrich your life, your family, your job. So just head over, link in the bio, or drop us a message, comment on YouTube, or however you need to contact us. We'll send you the link, drop your application, and we can get you into the game plan as long as we're the right fit for you. But more importantly, you're the right fit for us.